Puglia region, or Apulia, is found in southeast Italy, along the heel of the boot. It is hilly and littered with olive groves and vineyards for some of Italy's best wines. This area gets less tourist traffic than the north or the southwest coast, but has plenty to offer and is well worth a trip. We stayed in the Itria Valley near Ostuni. Driving through that area, the first thing you will probably notice are all the small, white round buildings with conical roofs of rock that look like homes for gnomes. These homes, common in this region of Italy alone, are known as trulli houses, and they are everywhere. We stayed at the Massaria Greco. A massaria is a traditional Italian farmhouse, many of which have been restored into bed and breakfasts and fine hotels. One advantage of a massaria is its relative isolation. You are definitely away from the crowds, but that means you'll have to drive to get everywhere. No Ubers or taxis in the Puglian countryside, and trains aren't really an option here. Puglia is more relaxed and less commercialized than other areas we've visited in Italy. That means far fewer English speakers as well, which gives you good reason to brush up on your Italian. The pace is also much slower than other areas of Italy, which means things won't always be available when you want them. Don't even bother trying to get anyone to do anything during the siesta hours of summer. You are likely to see Italian men playing cards or chess during these hours rather than attending to tourists. Dinners start late, typically 8:30 or 9, so plan accordingly. You won't mind eating late and staying late, however, when you sample the wines, which are mostly regional since you are in the heart of Italian wine country. Puglia owes much to Greek culture, which is evident from the whitewashed buildings and towns that dot the area. We enjoyed the many desserts offered for breakfast each morning. Desserts are plentiful and delicious in Puglia. We also enjoyed the poolside bar. After unpacking and getting our bearings, we headed to dinner at a 500-year-old olive farm known as the Massaria Frantoio for a unique and fantastic experience. The owner met us and our 40 or so dinner companions for a tour of the grounds. Like many in the region, he grows all his own foods, which he serves based on the season. There is no menu, only 8 courses and 3 wines of the owner's choosing, and all were delicious. We even got to see some of the old presses used to make oil of the olives from the local trees, some of which were hundreds of years old. This was one of our favorite dinners. Being in the Italian wine country, we of course had to visit a vineyard, and we chose I Pastini, makers of some fine reds and even more fine white wines. The conditions of the region are ideal for whites. The winery was in the classic Trulli style common to the valley, but also featured top-of-the-line modern equipment, such as a mechanical bottler capable of filling 1,000 bottles an hour. It was a great mix of old and new, and the wines were outstanding. Whitney really enjoyed this stop. Even Walker had a couple sips, and he heartily agreed. Our next stop was one of the treasures of the region, an entire town of Trulli homes known as Alberobello. It looks like something out of Disney World. Many even have magical symbols on the roofs. The homes date from the 14th century. The reasons for their unique construction is unclear, though it's been rumored it was done to evade taxes and also to hide roving gangs of criminals. Trulli is the plural, each of the cones individually known as a trullo. Some of the buildings have multiple trulli. Some are still lived in, and we got to walk through one. No air conditioning was a deal breaker. This is surely one of the most Instagram sites in all of Puglia, and for good reason. We next visited Ostuni, Puglia's famed White City. This walled hilltop town sits above an olive grove with the Adriatic Sea just beyond, and hosts many of the region's most exclusive resorts. The Old Town area is a confusing array of streets and narrow passages, a virtual labyrinth and city planner's nightmare. The white buildings are punctuated by vivid green and blue wooden doors and windows. Everywhere you look are stores advertising the best olive oil in the region. At the highest point in the city sits the Ostuni Cathedral, a rare Gothic building atop a town of Romanesque or Baroque churches and buildings. Proceeding just a bit further down the narrow passages reveals the best view in the entire city. Brindisi was an ancient Greek settlement that predated the Roman Empire. It was also the end of the Appian Way, the famous Roman road and port to the eastern empires of Greece and Turkey. One of the original pillars still stands there, at the top of a long stairway. The coastline looks something like Southern California, with plenty of restaurants serving seafood and pizza. The laid-back lifestyle has earned the city the nickname Brend Easy. The central Duomo houses a free museum with statues of stone and bronze, some recovered from shipwrecks in the Adriatic Sea. Bari is the capital of the Puglia region, a port and university city, and the city of St. Nicholas. It's a mixture of ancient and modern with plenty for everyone. A bike tour was a great way to see the old town, which is the most popular with tourists. The first stop was the Basilica of St. Nicholas, in which it is said the saint's body is buried. The murals across the ceiling are breathtaking. The ground floor of the basilica hosts Catholic services, while the basement hosts Greek Orthodox. Riding a bike around the old town allows you to fully experience not only the sights of Bari, but also its sounds and lifestyles. There are certainly churches, fortresses, and castles, but also amazing seaside views and real Italians living their lives, not just tourists looking for photo opportunities. Like Brindisi, the city seems like something in Southern California or Miami, but it feels more like a big city, because it is. Along the interior streets, you can find old women making Orecchiette pasta, meaning little ears, by hand. They roll out sticks of dough and then squeeze off pieces, which they pinch and mold with their thumbs to give it that distinctive shape. They will teach you how to do it, but they're pretty demanding, so you better do a good job. Either way, they'll probably give you a thumbs up before redoing everything you did the right way. Our favorite town in Puglia was Yano a Mare, or more commonly just Yano. Set atop craggly cliffs punctured by hundreds of sea caves, the setting is breathtaking. The caves, grottos in Italian, are part of an extensive system that is believed to extend miles inland, though no one has been crazy enough to explore that far. Between the two cliffs, separated by an ancient bridge, lies a rocky beach, always crowded while we were there, offering eye candy in every direction. Just on the other side of the beach is a rocky promontory, hosting sunbathers, divers, rock climbers, and even one bride looking for the perfect backdrop for her wedding photos. Watching the divers from here offers nice low-key entertainment, for free. To get up close and personal with the sea caves, you will need to go by boat. Caves hidden from above suddenly come into view. You can dine in one of the larger caves, though it will cost you several $100s per plate, and you'll have to reserve months in advance. We passed. One of the most popular caves with couples is one in which the sunlight forms the shape of a perfect heart for exactly 1 minute per day. If you plan on proposing here, you'll need to be OCD about the planning. A cross sits atop a rocky island just across from Polignano, representing one of the legends of the town, of a hermit that lived on that island until he died, in defiance of the local authorities, and now represents the independent spirit of the town. The main street of Polignano is part of the Roman Appian Way, having been set over 2,000 years ago and is still hopping today. We were repeatedly referred to Pescaria for lunch, which features fresh octopus burgers. Despite the great photo opportunities that presented, we opted for more traditional seafare and were plenty happy with it, though everyone else seemed to have the same idea. Afterwards, we took a rickshaw tour, which was a great way to see the city from above the cliffs. The old town offered the usual shops, quaint restaurants, and panoramas, but our favorite stop was the Casa Mojito. We waited over 30 minutes for our mojitos, but they were well worth it. The spot is popular with locals as well as tourists, and the wait gave us a chance to meet Giuseppe Combs, who owns his own family restaurant in town, Antica Trattoria Combs, where we just had to have our dinner afterwards. Giuseppe, a major music buff, surprised us by knowing far more about Memphis than most locals. We were amazed and delighted by the food. Our last day in Puglia, we drove to Naples for one final dive with Diving Puglia. The setting for the shore dive was magnificent, and the dive allowed us to see underwater caves, one with a statue of the Madonna, the original Madonna. Our dive master made the experience great for everyone, especially Walker. So, would we recommend traveling to Puglia? Absolutely.